What happens when your husband shows up at the door with divorce papers because of something you thought was just harmless fun at the club? Can a little freedom really destroy a marriage, or is my husband just overreacting? You won't believe how quickly everything unraveled after my so-called girls' night went viral. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The notification sound from Ianthe's phone pierced through our quiet Sunday morning like a fire alarm. I looked up from my coffee and the financial reports I was reviewing for Monday's client meeting, watching my wife's face light up with that familiar glow she got whenever her phone buzzed with social media attention. "Oh my God, Martin, look at this!" Ianthe practically bounced in her chair, her blonde hair catching the morning sunlight streaming through our kitchen window. "The girls are planning another night out at the Orbit Club. Sarah says they're doing some kind of empowerment theme night." I set down my mug carefully, already feeling that familiar knot forming in my stomach. "Another night out? Didn't you just go last weekend?" Ianthe's smile faltered slightly, and I could see her defenses rising like a drawbridge. "So, it's not like I'm doing anything wrong. We're just dancing and having fun." "God, Martin, sometimes I think you'd prefer if I just stayed home knitting like your mother." "That's not fair, and you know it." I kept my voice level, the way I'd learned to do during our 8 years of marriage. "I just think maybe we could spend some time together on weekends. Ella keeps asking why Mummy's always going out." Our 8-year-old daughter was upstairs, probably still asleep, but Ianthe's eyes flashed with anger anyway. "Don't you dare use our daughter to guilt-trip me. I work 40 hours a week in HR, dealing with everyone else's problems. I deserve to have some fun." The way she said it made it sound like our marriage was a prison sentence. I'd been hearing variations of this argument for months now, ever since she'd reconnected with her college friends through Facebook. What started as occasional girls' nights had become a weekly ritual, complete with provocative outfits and late-night Uber rides home. "I'm not trying to guilt-trip you," I said, closing my laptop. "I just miss spending time with my wife." Ianthe rolled her eyes and stood up, her silk pajamas rustling as she moved to refill her coffee cup. "You're being dramatic. We spend plenty of time together." "When? You're either at work, out with the girls, or on your phone posting about your nights out. Maybe if you were more interesting, I wouldn't need to find entertainment elsewhere." The words hit me like a slap. I stared at her, wondering when my wife had become this stranger who spoke to me with such casual cruelty. The Ianthe I'd married had been ambitious and social, yes, but she'd also been kind. She'd laughed at my jokes and made me feel like I was enough. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Saw Ianthe's posts from last night. You two need to talk." I glanced at Ianthe, who was now scrolling through her phone with a satisfied smirk. "What did you post last night?" "Just some fun pictures with the girls." "Why? Are you going to police my social media now too?" "I'm not policing anything. I'm just asking." She thrust her phone toward me, and I saw a series of photos from the Orbit Club. Ianthe and her friends were posed with drinks, their outfits more revealing than anything she'd worn during our dating years. In one photo, she was leaning against the bar with a drink in her hand, her wedding ring clearly visible, but her body language screaming availability. "See? Just harmless fun," she said, but her tone was defensive. The comments under the photos made my stomach churn. Dozens of likes and fire emojis, with comments from men I didn't recognize. "Looking hot." "Single life treating you well." "Call me." "Ianthe, people are commenting like you're single." "So, I can't control what other people say. I'm just living my life." "But you're not correcting them either." She snatched the phone back. "I don't owe random internet strangers an explanation of my marriage status." "God, Martin, you're being so insecure right now." That word, insecure, had become her favorite weapon lately. Every time I expressed concern about her behavior, she'd throw it in my face like it was some kind of character flaw that invalidated my feelings. "I'm not insecure." I'm concerned about my marriage. Well, maybe you should be more concerned about being the kind of husband a woman wants to come home to. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Ianthe said immediately. I'm so sick of your mother sticking her nose in our business. I answered anyway. Hi, Mom. Martin, honey, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I saw some concerning posts online. Are you and Ianthe doing okay? Ianthe grabbed the phone from my hand. Helen, we're fine. Maybe you should find a hobby instead of stalking my social media. I could hear my mother's sharp intake of breath through the phone. Ianthe, I'm just concerned about my son and granddaughter. Well, your concern isn't needed or wanted. Martin is a grown man who doesn't need his mommy fighting his battles. She hung up and tossed the phone back to me. There. Problem solved. You can't talk to my mother like that. I can talk to anyone however I want. She's the one who's out of line. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. You need to talk to her before it's too late. Looking at Ianthe now, scrolling through more comments on her photos with a satisfied smile, I wondered if it already was. The following Friday night, I was putting Ella to bed when I heard Ianthe's heels clicking across our hardwood floors. She appeared in the doorway of our daughter's room, wearing a black dress that barely covered her thighs and heels, that added 4 inches to her height. Daddy, why is Mommy dressed like the ladies on TV? Ella asked innocently, and I saw Ianthe's jaw clench. Mommy's going out with her friends, sweetheart, just like when you dress up to play princess. Ianthe shot me a grateful look, which surprised me. Maybe there was still some part of the woman I'd married left in there. Will you read me 2 stories tonight since Mommy can't? Ella asked. Of course, baby. After Ella was settled, I found Ianthe in our bathroom, applying another coat of red lipstick. The colour was darker than anything she usually wore, more sultry. You look beautiful, I said, meaning it despite everything. She was still the most stunning woman I'd ever seen. She paused, meeting my eyes in the mirror. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of the old Ianthe, the one who used to smile when I complimented her. Thank you, she said softly. Maybe we could plan a date night next weekend, just the 2 of us. The softness vanished. I can't plan my whole life around your schedule, Martin. Sarah's having a rough time with her divorce. She needs her friends right now. Sarah's divorce had been finalized 3 months ago, but I didn't point that out. Okay, just be safe tonight. I'm always safe, I'm not stupid. Her Uber arrived at 9:30. I watched from the window as she climbed into the car, her dress riding up as she slid across the seat. The driver, a young guy who looked like he'd won the lottery, couldn't take his eyes off her legs. I spent the evening watching Netflix and trying not to check social media, but by 11 o'clock, curiosity got the better of me. Ianthe's Instagram story was already full of videos from the Orbit Club. Her group of friends, Sarah, Jessica, and 2 women I didn't recognize, were dancing and taking shots. The videos progressed throughout the night. First, innocent group shots with cocktails. Then dancing videos where the camera work got increasingly shaky. By midnight, there were videos of Ianthe dancing with men I'd never seen before. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother Gavin. Dude, you seeing this? I called him immediately. Seeing what? Check your wife's Instagram, like, right now. I refreshed the app and saw a new video that made my blood run cold. Ianthe was dancing with a tall, dark-haired guy who looked like he'd stepped off a romance novel cover. His hands were on her waist and she was grinding against him like they were alone in a bedroom instead of on a crowded dance floor. Martin, you there? Yeah, I'm here. Man, I don't know what to say, this doesn't look good. The video was only 15 seconds long, but it felt like a lifetime. I watched it 3 times, hoping I was misinterpreting what I was seeing, but there was no mistaking the intimacy of their movements or the way Ianthe threw her head back and laughed when the guy whispered something in her ear. Who is this guy? I asked Gavin. I don't know, but he's tagged in some of the comments. Liam Caro. Looks like he works at the club. I looked up Liam's profile. 29 years old, bartender at the Orbit Club, and judging by his photos, he had no shortage of female attention. His most recent post was a shirtless gym selfie with the caption, "Friday Night Energy." "This is bad, Martin." "I know." "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, another video appeared on Ianthe's story. This one was even worse. Liam had his arms wrapped around her from behind, and they were both laughing at something off camera. Her wedding ring caught the club's strobe lights as she reached back to touch his face. "I have to go," I told Gavin. "Martin, don't do anything crazy. Wait until she gets home and talk to her when you're both sober." But I was already grabbing my keys. Ella was sound asleep, and my neighbour Mrs. Peterson had told me to call if I ever needed anything. She was there in 10 minutes, still in her robe, but completely understanding when I explained I had an emergency. The Orbit Club was a 20-minute drive from our house, located in the trendy downtown district where parking cost more per hour than I used to make in a day. I found a spot 2 blocks away and walked, my heart pounding with every step. The bass from the club's sound system was audible from the street. A line of young people waited behind velvet ropes, but I walked straight to the bouncer. "I need to find my wife," I said. He looked me up and down, taking in my jeans and polo shirt, clearly not club attire. "Name?" "Ianthe Varall. She's with a group of women, blonde hair, black dress." He checked his tablet. "Yeah, they're at table 12 in the VIP section, but sir, you can't just—" I was already pushing past him. The club was darker than I'd expected, with flashing lights that made it hard to see clearly. The music was so loud I could feel it in my chest. I pushed through crowds of 20-somethings, looking for the VIP section. I found them at a circular booth in the back corner. Ianthe was sitting practically in Liam's lap, her hand on his chest as she leaned in to say something in his ear. Sarah and Jessica were at the other end of the table with their own male companions, but they looked up when they saw me approaching. "Martin," Sarah shouted over the music, her eyes wide with surprise, and something that looked like guilt. Ianthe spun around, and for a split second, I saw pure panic flash across her face before it hardened into defiance. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, not moving away from Liam. "I came to check on my wife." Liam looked between us with obvious confusion. "Wife?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Wife. As in married. To me." Ianthe finally stood up, but she was unsteady on her feet. "Martin, you're embarrassing me." "I'm embarrassing you." The music was too loud for a real conversation, but I could see people starting to stare. Someone was holding up a phone, recording the drama unfolding at table 12. "Can we talk outside?" I asked. "No, you need to leave. Now." Liam stood up, and I realized he was several inches taller than me and probably 20 pounds heavier. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She never mentioned a husband." That hit me like a physical blow. "She never mentioned me?" "Dude, I'm sorry. She said she was recently single and looking to have fun." The club seemed to spin around me. "Recently single?" Ianthe grabbed my arm. "Martin, stop. You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene? You told him you were single." "I never said that." "Yes, you did," Liam said, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "You said you were exploring your options after getting out of a long relationship." Ianthe's face went white. "That's not—" "You misunderstood." But the damage was done. I could see it in Liam's face, in Sarah's guilty expression, in the way Jessica was suddenly very interested in her drink. "We're leaving," I said. "No, we're not. I'm not ready to go home." "Ianthe, get your purse. We're leaving. Now." She looked like she was going to argue, but something in my voice must have warned her that I was at my breaking point. She grabbed her clutch and followed me toward the exit, stumbling slightly in her heels. We didn't speak during the walk to my car or the drive home. It wasn't until we were in our driveway that she finally broke the silence. "You had no right to embarrass me like that." I turned off the engine and looked at her. "I had no right. You told another man you were single." "I never said I was single. He misunderstood." What exactly did you tell him, Ianthe? She was quiet for a long moment. I might have said I was exploring my options while wearing your wedding ring. It doesn't mean anything. It was just flirting. Just flirting? You were sitting in his lap. So, it's not like I was having sex with him. The casualness of her response stunned me. That's your defense? That you weren't having sex with him in public? God, Martin, you're being so dramatic. It was just dancing and having fun. You act like I committed murder. I stared at my wife, really looked at her, and realized I didn't recognize the person sitting next to me. When had she become someone who could lie so easily? When had she started treating our marriage like it was optional? I want you to stop going to that club. Excuse me? You heard me. I want you to stop going to the Orbit Club. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to stop? You don't get to want me to do anything, Martin. I'm not your property. You're my wife. That doesn't make me your prisoner. We sat in silence for another minute before she got out of the car and walked into the house, leaving me alone in the darkness of our garage. My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had posted a video of our confrontation at the club, and it was already getting comments and shares. The caption read, "Drama at the Orbit tonight. Wife caught cheating." Sunday dinner at my mother's house had been a family tradition for as long as I could remember. Even during the early years of our marriage, when Ianthe complained that Helen was too involved in our lives, she'd still shown up with a smile and a bottle of wine. This Sunday was different. Ianthe spent the entire drive to Mum's house, scrolling through her phone, occasionally letting out little huffs of indignation. "Everything okay?" I asked as we pulled into Mum's driveway. "Just dealing with all the drama you caused Friday night." "The drama I caused?" "That video is all over social media. People are saying terrible things about me." I'd seen the video. It had been shared in several local Facebook groups, and the comments ranged from supportive, "Girl, dump him," to brutal, "She's clearly cheating." What bothered me most wasn't the comments. It was that Ianthe seemed more upset about her public image than about what had led to the confrontation in the first place. "Maybe if you hadn't been... Don't." She held up her hand. "Just don't. I'm not in the mood for another lecture about my behavior." Ella bounced out of the back seat and ran toward the front door, where Mum was waiting with open arms. At least someone in this family was still happy. "Hello, sweetheart," Mum said, scooping up her granddaughter. "I made your favorite cookies." "Chocolate chip." "Is there any other kind?" Mum's eyes met mine over Ella's head, and I could see the concern there. She'd always been good at reading situations, probably from 30 years of teaching high school English. "Martin, Ianthe," she said carefully. "How are you both doing?" "We're fine," Ianthe said quickly, her voice artificially bright. "Just dealing with some social media nonsense." Gavin's car pulled up behind ours, and I felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief because I'd have an ally, dread because I knew he'd seen the video too. "Uncle Gavin," Ella ran to him as he got out of his car. "Hey, Princess, how's my favorite niece?" "I'm your only niece." "That's what makes you the favorite." Inside, Mum had set the dining room table with her good china, the way she did every Sunday. It was a comforting ritual that usually made me feel grounded, but today, it felt like we were all actors in a play where no one knew their lines. "So," Mom said as we sat down to pot roast and mashed potatoes, "how was everyone's week?" "Eventful," Gavin said, shooting me a meaningful look. Ianthe's fork clattered against her plate. "If you have something to say, Gavin, just say it." "I'm just concerned about my brother." "Your brother is fine. We had a minor disagreement that got blown out of proportion." "A minor disagreement." Gavin's voice rose slightly. "Ianthe, you were practically dry-humping another guy in public." "Gavin," Mom warned, glancing at Ella, who was focused on cutting her pot roast into tiny pieces. "What's dry-humping?" Ella asked innocently. "It's nothing, sweetheart," I said quickly. "Grown-up talk." Ianthe stood up abruptly. I don't have to sit here and be attacked by your family. No one's attacking you, Mom said gently. We're just concerned. Concerned about what? That I went dancing with my friends? That I had the audacity to enjoy myself without my husband's permission? It's not about permission, I said. It's about respect. Respect? Ianthe laughed, but it sounded harsh and bitter. You want to talk about respect? How about the respect of not ambushing your wife at a club and humiliating her in front of her friends? How about the respect of not telling other men you're single? Gavin shot back. Ianthe's face flushed red. I never said I was single. That's not what the bartender said. The bartender was drunk and confused. So were you, apparently. That's enough, Mom said firmly. Ella, sweetie, why don't you go play in the living room? We'll have dessert in a few minutes. Ella looked between the adults with wide, worried eyes. Are you fighting about Mommy's dancing? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Our 8-year-old daughter had somehow picked up on the tension, despite our efforts to shield her. We're just having a discussion, I said. Go play, baby. Everything's fine. But everything wasn't fine, and we all knew it. After Ella left the room, the silence stretched uncomfortably. Ianthe, Mom said finally, I've known you for almost 9 years. I've watched you become a mother and build a career. This behavior, it's not like you. Maybe this is exactly like me, and you just never bothered to really know me. The cruelty of the comment made Mom flinch. Helen Verall had welcomed Ianthe into our family with open arms, had babysat Ella countless times, had been nothing but supportive and kind. That's uncalled for, Gavin said angrily. Is it? You all sit here judging me for having a social life, but none of you have ever asked what I need or want. You just expect me to be the perfect wife and mother and never complain. No one expects you to be perfect, I said. We just expect you to be faithful. I haven't been unfaithful. You told another man you were exploring your options. So, I can explore my options without acting on them. The admission hit the table like a slap. Mom's face went pale, and Gavin's mouth fell open. Exploring your options, Mom repeated quietly. Ianthe seemed to realize what she'd said, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. Yes, exploring my options. I'm 34 years old, and I've been with the same man since I was 26. Maybe I want to know what else is out there. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you got married and had a child, Gavin said coldly. Maybe I should have, but I didn't, and now I'm stuck in a life that feels too small for me. The words cut deeper than I'd expected. I'd known our marriage was struggling, but hearing her describe our life together as something she was stuck in felt like a knife to the chest. If that's how you feel, I said quietly, then maybe we should talk about separation. For the first time since the conversation started, Ianthe looked genuinely surprised. What? You just said you feel stuck. You're exploring your options. You're telling other men you're single. Maybe you'd be happier if you actually were single. I didn't say I wanted a divorce. Then what do you want, Ianthe? Because I'm lost here. I don't understand what's happening to us. She was quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe we were finally going to have an honest conversation. Then she shrugged. I want you to stop trying to control me. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to save our marriage. By forbidding me from going out with my friends. By asking you to respect our marriage vows. I haven't broken any vows. You've broken every vow except the technical definition of adultery. She stood up again, grabbing her purse from the counter. I don't have to listen to this. Where are you going? I asked. Somewhere I don't have to justify my existence. She walked toward the front door, then stopped and turned back. Ella, Mummy has to go. I'll see you at home later. But we haven't had dessert yet, Ella called from the living room. Daddy will bring you some home. And then she was gone, leaving me sitting at my mother's dining room table with the wreckage of what used to be my family. Martin, Mum said softly, I think you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that this marriage might not be salvageable. I looked at Ella, who had come back into the dining room and was staring at the front door with a confused expression. Daddy, why did Mommy leave? I don't know, baby. I really don't know. That night, I found the bedroom door locked when I tried to go to bed. Ianthe had claimed our room, leaving me to sleep in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. As I lay on the unfamiliar mattress, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. This wasn't just a rough patch anymore. This was the beginning of the end. Monday morning brought a new level of humiliation I hadn't anticipated. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed with a text from my colleague David. "Dude, is this your wife?" The attached link led to a local gossip blog called Downtown Drama, with the headline, "Local Wife Goes Wild at the Orbit Club, Husband Crashes Party." Below it was a clearer version of the video from Friday night, along with several photos I hadn't seen before. The photos showed Ianthe throughout the evening, dancing with multiple men, taking shots, and in one particularly damaging image, sitting on Liam's lap while he whispered in her ear. Her wedding ring was visible in every single photo. The comment section was brutal. If my husband looked like that accountant, I'd be looking for an upgrade too. She's clearly cheating. Feel bad for the kid. Why do married women act single then cry when they get caught? Plot twist, maybe the husband is boring AF and she's just having fun. I closed the browser and tried to focus on work, but concentration was impossible. Every time someone walked past my office, I wondered if they'd seen the blog post. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, friends and family members sending me links to various social media posts about the incident. Around 10 o'clock, my boss knocked on my door. Richard was in his 60s, had been married for 40 years, and usually stayed out of his employees' personal lives. "Martin, you got a minute?" "Of course." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. I don't usually get involved in personal matters, but I've had several clients mention seeing something online about you and your wife. My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, Richard. I had no idea it would affect work." "It probably won't, but I wanted to give you a heads up. The Henderson account specifically asked if you were going through personal issues that might affect your focus." The Henderson account was my biggest client, worth about 30% of my annual commission. "What did you tell them?" "That your personal life has never interfered with your professional performance, and I don't expect it to start now. But Martin, you might want to consider keeping things quiet until this blows over." After he left, I called Ianthe. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice sharp and defensive. "What?" "We need to talk about the blog post." "What blog post?" "The one with photos of you and Liam that's making rounds on social media. It's affecting my work." There was a long pause. "How is it affecting your work?" "Clients are asking questions. My boss had to reassure them that I'm still capable of doing my job." "Well, maybe if you hadn't made such a scene at the club, there wouldn't be anything to post about." "Ianthe, this is serious. This could hurt my career." "Your career? What about my career? Do you know what it's like trying to work in HR when everyone's gossiping about your personal life?" "Actually, I hadn't thought about that." "Are you having problems at work, too?" My supervisor called me into her office this morning. Apparently, several people have sent her the blog post. She wanted to discuss maintaining professional standards both in and out of the workplace. For a moment, I felt genuinely sorry for her. Whatever was happening between us, she didn't deserve to be humiliated at work. "I'm sorry. That must have been awful." "It was, and it's all your fault." The sympathy evaporated. "My fault?" "If you hadn't shown up at the club acting like a crazy person, none of this would have happened. If you hadn't been acting single, I wouldn't have needed to show up at the club." "I wasn't acting single. You were sitting in another man's lap, Ianthe. It was just dancing." "Sitting in someone's lap isn't dancing." She hung up on me. I spent my lunch break in my car, trying to figure out how my life had spiraled so completely out of control in the span of 4 days. My phone buzzed with a call from Ruth, Ianthe's younger sister. "Martin, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you directly." Ruth had always been the more level-headed of the Penn sisters. She was a nurse, married to a good guy named Tom, and had always seemed to genuinely like me. Of course it's okay. How are you doing? I'm fine, but I'm worried about you and Ianthe. I saw the stuff online. Yeah, it's been a rough few days. Martin, I need to tell you something, and I don't think you're going to like it. My grip tightened on the phone. What? Ianthe called me yesterday, crying about how you embarrassed her at the club. But when I asked her to explain what happened, her story didn't make sense. What do you mean? She said you showed up and started yelling at her for dancing with friends. But I saw the photos, Martin. That wasn't dancing with friends. I felt a wave of relief that at least one member of her family could see what was really happening. She also said some things about your marriage that worried me. She's been talking about feeling trapped and wondering what else is out there. She said the same thing at dinner yesterday. I tried to talk to her about counseling, about working things out, but she got angry. She said I was taking your side. I'm sorry she put you in that position. Martin, I love my sister, but what she's doing isn't okay. Tom and I have been married for 6 years, and I can't imagine treating him the way she's treating you. After we hung up, I felt marginally better knowing that not everyone in Ianthe's family thought I was the villain in this story, but that small comfort was short-lived. My phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line made my blood run cold. Meeting request, family law consultation. It was an automated email confirming an appointment I hadn't made. The timestamp showed it had been scheduled from Ianthe's email account. I called the law office immediately. Brennan and Associates, this is Jennifer. Hi, I think there might be a mistake. I received a confirmation email for an appointment I didn't schedule. What's the name on the appointment? Martin Varral. Let me check. Yes, the appointment was scheduled by Ianthe Varral for this Thursday at 2 o'clock. She said you were both interested in discussing your options regarding separation and custody arrangements. The words hit me like a physical blow. She scheduled an appointment for both of us. Yes, sir. Is there a problem? No. No problem, thank you. I hung up and stared at my phone. Ianthe had scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney without telling me. She was already 3 steps ahead, planning the end of our marriage while I was still trying to figure out how to save it. My phone buzzed with a text from her. We need to talk when you get home. It's important. I knew what she wanted to talk about. The appointment confirmation email had probably gone to both of us. For the first time since Friday night, I felt something other than hurt and confusion. I felt angry. Really, truly angry. If Ianthe wanted to explore her options, then maybe it was time I explored mine too. I opened my laptop and started researching family law attorneys. I left work early and picked up Ella from school, needing the comfort of my daughter's chatter to prepare myself for whatever confrontation awaited me at home. She talked about her art project and a boy named Tyler, who'd shared his cookies at lunch, normal 8-year-old concerns that felt like a lifeline to sanity. Daddy, is Mummy still sad? She asked as we pulled into our driveway. What makes you think Mummy's sad? She was crying this morning when she thought I wasn't looking, and she's been sleeping in your room with the door locked. The fact that Ella had noticed the locked door made me realize how badly we were failing to shield her from our problems. Sometimes grown-ups get sad about grown-up things, I said carefully. But it's not your fault, okay? Mommy and Daddy both love you very much. Are you getting divorced like Uncle Sarah? Aunt Sarah, I corrected automatically, then processed what she'd said. Why would you ask that? Because Mummy was talking to Grandma Sylvia about lawyers and stuff, and she was crying. I sat in the car for a moment after turning off the engine, trying to prepare myself for what was coming. Ianthe's mother had always been her biggest enabler, the type of woman who believed her daughter could do no wrong, and that any problems in her life were someone else's fault. Inside, I could hear Ianthe on the phone in the kitchen, her voice animated in a way it hadn't been with me in months. I know, Mom. He's being completely unreasonable. No, I never said I was single. He's trying to control me. I don't know why I put up with it for so long. Ella ran upstairs to her room, and I stood in the hallway listening to my wife paint me as the villain in our marriage to her mother. He showed up at the club like some kind of stalker, embarrassed me in front of all my friends. Now it's all over the internet and he's blaming me. I walked into the kitchen, and Ianthe looked up with startled eyes. "Mum, I have to go. Martin just got home." She hung up quickly. "Having a nice chat with Sylvia?" "She's concerned about me." "I'm sure she is, just like she was concerned when you maxed out our credit cards last year, or when you got written up at work for coming in late." Ianthe's face flushed. "Don't bring my mother into this." "You brought her into it when you called her to complain about your terrible husband. I needed someone to talk to. You could have talked to me." "Right, because you've been so understanding and supportive." I pulled out my phone and showed her the email confirmation. "Care to explain this?" She had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I was going to tell you." "When? After the appointment?" "I scheduled it for both of us. I thought we should explore our options." "Our options? Or your options?" She stood up and walked to the window, her back to me. "Martin, we're not happy. You know we're not happy." "I know you're not happy. I've been trying to figure out how to fix things." "What if they can't be fixed?" The question hung between us like a challenge. I looked at this woman I'd loved for 8 years, the mother of my child, and realized I didn't know her anymore. "Is that what you want? A divorce?" She turned around, and for a moment I saw uncertainty in her eyes. "I don't know what I want. I just know I can't keep living like this." "Like what?" "Like I'm suffocating, like I'm disappearing into being just Martin's wife and Ella's mother." "There's nothing wrong with being a wife and mother." "There is if that's all you are." I sat down at our kitchen table, suddenly exhausted. "Ianthe, when did I ever ask you to give up who you are?" "You didn't have to ask. It just happened, day by day, year by year, until I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself." "So you decided to find yourself by flirting with other men?" "I decided to remember what it felt like to be desired." The honesty of her answer caught me off guard. "You don't feel desired by me?" "When was the last time you looked at me the way that guy at the club looked at me? When was the last time you gave me a chance to?" We stared at each other across our kitchen, 8 years of marriage and accumulated resentment stretching between us like a chasm. "I can't do this anymore," she said finally. "Can't do what?" "This. Us. Pretending we're happy when we're both miserable." "I'm not miserable. I'm confused and hurt, but I'm not miserable." "Well, I am." The words hit me like a physical blow, not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. For the first time in weeks, Ianthe was telling me the truth. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay? If you're that unhappy, if being married to me is that awful, then maybe we should end it." She looked surprised, like she'd expected me to fight harder. "You want a divorce?" "I want my wife back, but if she doesn't exist anymore, if you've decided you'd rather be single and exploring your options, then yes, maybe divorce is the answer." "I didn't say I wanted to be single." "You told Liam you were exploring your options. You scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney. What am I supposed to think?" I don't know what I want." "Well, figure it out, because I can't keep living in limbo while you decide whether or not you want to be married." She was crying now, but they weren't the manipulative tears I'd seen so often lately. These seemed genuine. "What about Ella? What about her? How do we tell her we're getting divorced?" "We tell her the truth, that sometimes people grow apart and can't live together anymore, but we both still love her. She's going to be devastated. She's already confused and scared. At least this way she'll have some stability instead of living in a house where her parents barely speak to each other." Ianthe sat down across from me, and for a moment we were just two people who'd loved each other once, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said quietly. "What did you mean?" "I just wanted to feel alive again. Young again. Like I had choices." "You always had choices. You chose to get married. You chose to have a baby. You chose to build a life with me. Maybe I chose wrong. Maybe you did. We sat in silence for several minutes before she spoke again. So what happens now? Now we call that attorney and schedule separate appointments. We figure out custody and division of assets. We try to do this as civilly as possible for Ella's sake. Martin? Yeah? I'm sorry. For all of it. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her sitting there with tears streaming down her face, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not happiness, not satisfaction, but relief. The uncertainty was over. The limbo was ending. I know, I said. I'm sorry too. That night I slept in the guest room again, but this time it was by choice. Tomorrow I would start the process of legally ending my marriage. Tonight I would grieve for what we'd lost and try to figure out how to build a new life for myself and my daughter. 3 months later, I was sitting in my attorney's office reviewing the final divorce settlement when my phone buzzed with a notification that made me smile. It was a LinkedIn update. Martin Verrall has been promoted to senior partner at Brennan Accounting Services. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my personal life had imploded, my professional life had flourished. The scandal that I'd worried would hurt my career had actually demonstrated my integrity to clients. Richard had told me that several people had commented on how professionally I'd handled a difficult personal situation. Everything looks good here, my attorney, Patricia Brennan, said as she reviewed the documents. Full custody to you, with supervised visitation for your ex-wife every other weekend, the house, your retirement accounts, and primary custody of your daughter. She keeps her car and half the savings account. What about the credit card debt? Since it was incurred without your knowledge for her personal entertainment, she's responsible for it. About $12,000 worth of club nights and shopping sprees. I signed the divorce papers and watched 8 years of marriage turn into folders and signatures. But the strangest thing was the calm that followed. Ella relaxed, the house grew peaceful, and I slowly built a new life. Promotion at work, Friday pizza nights, and eventually, a gentle, steady woman who actually valued a faithful husband. Meanwhile, Ianthe moved away, unemployed, single, and finally realizing what she'd thrown away, asking through friends if I ever thought about giving her another chance. I don't. Some things you can't undo, and what once felt like the worst night of my life, the club incident, ended up being the push I needed to leave a woman who saw me as an obstacle and build a life where my daughter and I are genuinely happy.